It's been a while since I've had depression that's been this debilitating.
One of the biggest issues I've struggled with my entire life was depression and some neuropsychiatric disorders. It's really difficult, especially with depression. It kind of becomes normal for you, and you don't even realize, like, this just isn't a proper state of being.
Like, I just have a hard time fucking moving, getting out of bed, thinking. And I think the problem is my gut health, and I think most people's depression is directly linked with their gut health. I guess it's time for a new sort of strategy of dealing with this.
I took the B12 because I was a little worried that I was B12 deficient because I am getting some psychotic symptoms which can happen from a B12 deficiency. Okay, so just recently I had a really crazy, trippy mushroom experience, and it totally changed my whole outlook on life and just how I am and who I am as a person. And yeah, and that just got rid of my sociopathy. I'm not a sociopath anymore. I can actually feel for other people now. When I see someone get hurt, I can actually feel bad for them. Yeah, just, I don't have that intense hatred in me anymore. And it's pretty amazing. Yeah, that shroom experience just totally fucking changed me.
How is that compassionate? How is what they're doing compassionate? How is saying non-vegans shouldn't deserve to live? How is saying that vegan gays wants to stomp a baby into his effing blood and pull? How is that? How is that compassionate? And I thought his mushrooms would have cured him of his effing hatred, but the mushrooms didn't do crap on him because he's still a effing loser!
I've talked about this a lot on my channel. I had really severe depression since I was very young, like around 6 years old. I've had suicidal tendencies, and I also struggled with hallucinations quite a bit. I'd have hallucinations almost every day. After I went vegan, the hallucinations almost completely went away. I'd only have about one a week, and then I actually found out that caffeine triggered hallucinations. And I did end up getting depressed recently, like a few months ago, from, you know, a bunch of life bullcrap that was going on. But, you know, I practiced all those things, thinking positively, making sure my diet was on point, working out a lot. Now, feel pretty good right now.
F the vegan community! This is what I hate about the vegan community! Or the vegan community! Community! Because a bunch of tall-ass followers who go thankful make excuses! Well, this is why the world doesn't take vegans seriously!
Shout out to the musician Thomas Allen. He was the guy on the strings playing subtly in the background during that montage. If you don't know somebody like Richard, one day, soon, you will. If you know 10 people, if you know 20 people, one or two of them are going to have the same psychological problem that Richard has. That stems from the fact that fundamentally we assign in our own mind's eye, in our own imagination, the relationship between cause and effect. The difference between a beautiful flower and a weed, it is up to you and I to decide. You can cultivate a whole garden full of dandelions and just decide that dandelions are the most beautiful of flowers, or you can cultivate a garden full of roses and go around exterminating the dandelions, telling yourself that they're an ugly weed that you have to do without. Richard experiences hallucination. He experiences visual hallucination. He experiences auditory hallucination, meaning hearing voices that aren't really there. And he also experiences classical, textbook, paranoid delusions, meaning that he has the fear that people are out to get him. He has the fear that people are trying to kill him. And to use two examples he's given himself, just when someone comes up and shakes his hand, just when someone says hello and gives him a hug, he's gripped with the fear that they are really trying to kill him. Now, one important and interesting question I've raised about this in the past, both publicly and privately, like I've said this directly to Richard back when he and I were speaking, was, Richard, if you knew someone else who had this list of symptoms, would you want them to have the legal right to own and carry a firearm. I have asked him, in effect, do you think that you should be a leader in a political movement? Do you think that you should be one of the most famous leaders in the vegan movement? And I was asking my audience just the other day, if you were going to step on board an airplane, who would you want to be the pilot of that airplane? The list of symptoms Vegan Gains is giving you right now would or should disqualify him from being a pilot. It should make you tremendously concerned to have your life in his hands. But there's another problem here. And if you don't have it, your brother or sister or one of your 10 closest friends will have it as you go on in life. And that is the struggle of human beings to assign a relationship of cause and effect between things in the outside, materially real world, and the inner, unreal world of the imagination, of the emotions, of our so-called mental health problems. Richard is someone who, throughout his life, again and again, has reached out into the outside world and tried to assign a cause to his psychosis. He has tried to assign a cause to his depression. He has tried to assign a cause to his hallucinations. And if he can just convince himself in his own imagination that he's found the cause, then by eliminating it from his diet, by eliminating it from his life, he can convince himself that he's found the cure. And tragically, as we've seen again and again, as he's shuffled from one fad ideology to the next, this just isn't true. The first cure he stumbled upon, that he's still committed to today for ethical reasons, is veganism. He tried to convince himself that his hallucinations, his depression, his mood swings, all of his psychological abnormalities could be cured, would be cured, must be cured through the vegan diet. Why? Let me just ask you, why would that work? There's no known mechanism whereby the vegan diet would alleviate chronic hallucinations. There's no reason why a vegan diet would alleviate paranoid delusions, the fear that people are trying to kill you when they're not trying to kill. There's just no plausible scientific explanation for this. But if there were, this would be one of the greatest scientific discoveries of our time. In fact, I would go so far as to say, Richard, if you really believe this, you should undertake a double-blind placebo study, even if there is just one subject. What do I mean by double-blind? I mean you go for, say, 2 months eating meals, and you don't know yourself whether they're vegan or not. And then you go for 2 months eating meals that, again, appear the same. You don't know during which period of time you're eating vegan and which period of time you're eating non-vegan. And then compare how your mental health outcomes are. If it were really true that everything wrong with Richard could be cured through a vegan diet, that would be a remarkable discovery, and we should try to pin down what the mechanism is. Nobody believes that. Richard himself, as hard as he tries, can't convince himself of it, or he can only believe it for a short period of time before his next depressive episode takes over, before he has his next hallucinatory experience, and these pretensions come crashing to the ground. Another interesting example of this pattern is almost as old as his belief that veganism cured the problem, and thus, therefore, that his hallucinations and paranoia were caused by meat, and that his depression was in some sense caused by meat. He tried to convince himself that caffeine was the root of the problem. Now, caffeine is a potent, mind-altering drug. But I've seen Richard unwittingly engage in a kind of double-blind placebo control trial. Because I have seen Richard eat a whole bar of dark vegan chocolate on camera. And you guys can look it up. Vegan chocolate contains a whole lot of caffeine. Compare how much you'd get eating 100 grams of dark vegan chocolate to having, say, a cup of coffee. It's a significant amount of caffeine. The difference between vegan and non-vegan chocolate is just that non-vegan chocolate is heavily diluted. The amount of real chocolate, the amount of caffeine is less because the amount of animal fat is more and other ingredients like that. But bitter, black, vegan chocolate, that's a stiff dose of caffeine. And we've all seen him sitting and eating significant amounts of chocolate and having none of the symptoms that he attributes to caffeine. Again, You could undertake very easily a double-blind placebo control trial. You could put him through a period of time where he's drinking coffee and he himself doesn't know whether or not that's given. You could alternate every couple of days. You could see how that goes. You could monitor him under laboratory conditions and establish or disestablish the hypothesis that caffeine has anything to do with his condition whatsoever. Now, if you've been watching his channel, you will have seen one crackpot theory after another, and sometimes he has latched onto one personality after another. Goji Man. Oh, there's this YouTuber Goji Man. He's the answer to my prayers. He's discovered the secret. He's discovered the secret to alleviate my depression. No. There's this medical doctor, Dr. Avi. I can believe in him. He's the cure. He's explained to me the magic of SSRIs, of Prozac. He's going from one phony cure to the next. And guys, let me tell you, the real explanation is sitting here as obvious as the nose on my face. What's wrong with Richard, regardless of its ultimate origin or cause, is incurable. And it's only made worse by his addiction to making excuses. If this series of hypothetical experiments seems too dangerous and too shocking to you, let me just propose one more that has never occurred to Richard. Richard, could it be that your depression is either caused by or exacerbated by video game addiction? Why is it that among the myriad crackpot cures you convinced yourself to try, among the various mind-altering drugs you've tried, why is it that it never occurred to you once to get out of your comfort zone? Take your video game console and burn it. Quit video games, if not for a month, then forever. Get some sense of ambition, some sense of direction in your life. See to what extent that alleviates your depression, makes it worse, or at least helps to bring about what you were hoping magic mushrooms would do for you. Maybe it would help you discover some kind of path to becoming a better person.
F the vegan community! This is what I hate about the vegan community!